basically what we're going to do today is going to be straight questions and answers. So whatever question that you have, I'm going to answer it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Jump right into it. People are asking questions.
Let's just jump right into it, guys. What's up, Anthony? Okay.
It's
history on the run. Hi there. Any research on weight training geared for women? Tons of research on weight training geared to women. So yeah, I mean, it's all out there. I think you mean like is weight training for women specifically different than men? The one area where it's different is that women tend to have greater strength endurance than guys. So there's a real good Instagram account. Annette De La Rosa has a great account, and her and Courtney, who won the Bikini Olympia, actually do a lot of workouts on there. And if you notice, their workouts on like leg days are really high volume, and 99% of guys who would do those would die. So women, if you notice, like if you go, like they'll do like 4 sets of squats, 15 different variations of lunges, then they'll do sled pushes, and guys are like done after the squats, right? Well, women actually have higher strength endurance.
Is it an intensity thing or an actual strength endurance thing?
So that's a good question. Even given the same intensity, women have greater strength endurance than guys. Yeah, so they can pretty much kick guys' asses when it comes to like lower body strength endurance. So I mean, hey, if you're a girl, maybe like I would definitely take advantage of being able to do high volume workouts. So if Zeus lifted, okay, that's you. All right, so wide lat pull downs versus close. Which one's for upper lats? Wide, because the upper lats have a greater adduction moment of arm, meaning they bring the arms in, and wide grip are better for bringing the arms in. Lower lats are more for extension, which is close grip. In a previous video, this is Roger Paget. In a previous video, you talked about loading with creatine monohydrate. How do you know when you're loaded? Well, basically, typically if you're loading 20 grams a day, you're probably saturated in your muscle stores at around anywhere from 3 to 5 days. So just load for 5 days and you'll definitely be loaded. Any supplements for muscle fatigue recovery? I started CrossFit and I feel too tired every day. Now, I'm not sure if you mean between workouts or within a workout. If it's within a workout, stuff like beta-alanine helps with strength endurance. Bicarbonate is the best thing you could possibly use for strength endurance, but it could hurt your stomach.
What about any vasodilators?
Yeah, vasodilators could be good. Like citrulline could be good. If you're talking about between workouts, I'd say HMB for certain, 100%. I don't care what the haters say about me. HMB, period. William Wallace, really good question.
Good question.
Any association between muscle size and strength? Yeah. Look at Ben Pekulski, look at me. Who's stronger? Okay. Any research on arachidonic acid? Yeah, there's 2 studies on it. It seems to have basically, if you're not periodizing your training and you're not changing anything up at all, you stop getting inflammation, and that could be important for muscle size. And so that's where it's beneficial if you're not changing things up at all. If you're changing things up a lot, it's probably not going to be helpful. Push-pull legs or full body 3 times if only doing 3 days for training. Well, if you're only training 3 days a week, I mean,
kill yourself.
I'd probably maybe do full body in that case. Yeah. Heavy compound lifts increases testosterone, which helps with hypertrophy. Myth or truth? I think it's the truth, to be quite honest. There's a lot of papers like, hormones don't help with muscle growth. What? Like what?
News to me.
Yeah, news to me. Anyway, I don't think it's a myth, Anthony. I think the studies that show they aren't are flawed. Best way to activate. No wonder like I get so much hate. Yeah. Best way to activate and work on traps. So like obviously in general, the traps basically there's different aspects of the traps, but the upper traps I'm sure you're thinking about, those elevate, right, the scapula. So they elevate the scapula. But one little trick is that they also cause upward rotation of the scapula. So instead of having your your arms really close to your side, take a little bit wider grip, and you'll get some upward rotation along with the elevation, and that seems to activate your traps maximally. Do you need to cycle off berberine? Natalie Tirana says. Probably not, Natalie. Usheen says, how often do you need to periodize strength hypertrophy to maintain strength? To maintain, if it's maintenance type of thing, I'd say every 4 weeks. If you're trying to make gains and you're highly trained, you may need to switch it up every week. Lucas says, the best volume as far as sets per body part for hypertrophy. What's your opinion? You got to periodize your volume. You have to periodize your volume. There's no set volume. Like in other words, I can't go I like training with high volume, okay? But if I did 30 sets for legs every workout, I'd plateau. So basically you want to periodize your volumes on your heavier days. Maybe you're doing anywhere from 12 to 20 sets. That's your hypertrophy days. Then on your heavier days, maybe you're doing 8 to 12 sets with longer rest. When do rest days hit a point of diminishing returns? Well, basically, I think it was Bravo said that. Essentially, what you're talking about is that when they start interfering with your frequency, right? So if you're not training every body part at least twice a week, if rest is interfering with that, that's a problem. That's a good question. How much?
Give a little info.
Okay. How much is the Muscle PhD course going to be, and what does it consist of? Okay, I'm going to tell you what it consists of because there's not a price point on it yet. It's magic. It's
going to change the game.
It's going to change the game. So we literally had I went through a whole rant this morning, asked the guys on a theme on just changing the game. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to change the game, and then they don't do anything, right? A lot of people put motivational posts up there and they don't do anything different, right? We were put on this earth to change things. We were put on this earth to change the freaking game. And every single time I read a scientific paper, I don't know why scientists have to encode everything in a language that's what? It's a language of ambiguity. If you think it's difficult, you read scientific papers and you're like, this is really difficult to understand. I need a PhD to understand that. Well, I have a PhD, right? And I read these papers, and they're still shrouded in ambiguity. It pisses me off. It infuriates me. Put things in English, okay? So what's the point of a Muscle PhD course? You have the 1% of society, which are scientists, who shroud everything in ambiguity, right? Okay. We're going to take that and basically bring it to you and make it completely understandable. We're going to literally change the game. You're going to understand years, decades worth of knowledge and easy to understand courses that are put in English. We're going to take all the minutia out of it, the garbage that means nothing, and give you practical application. It's going to be the most comprehensive course ever on training, and that's the first one that's coming out. And then after that, we'll release one on nutrition. After that, we'll release one that's going to be on supplementation. It's going to be sick. You name it, you think about it on training, we're going to answer that question.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. How often do you cycle citrulline? I'd say every couple weeks. So maybe every 3 weeks, cycle off it. Because what happens is that citrulline increases arginine, and arginine is going to cause an upregulation in the enzyme arginase, which basically is going to break down arginine so it can't convert over to nitric oxide. Long story short, cycle off every 3 weeks. And then, for about 2 weeks. What's your take on intermittent fasting? I think it's freaking awesome. And in fact, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a whole topic on intermittent fasting. And if you guys were in Brazil, whoever's in Brazil, I love you guys. You guys are freaking phenomenal. I'm going to be back soon. Trust me. But I talked about intermittent fasting up there. Okay. Anthony's my boy. I love Anthony. What's up, Anthony? What's up, my man? In bulking phase, should you still calorie cycle to minimize fat loss while maximizing muscle growth? Anthony, absolutely. Linear dieting is not the way to go. So if I just decrease calories when I'm dieting, I'm going to hit a plateau. If I just increase calories when I'm bulking, I'm going to get insulin resistant and have a plateau. So my advice is basically I would still have like a high calorie day, a moderate calorie day, a maintenance calorie day, and maybe even a slightly below maintenance calorie day to keep you insulin sensitive. Jeremilo of Fitness says, currently looking to optimize fat loss. Cool. It's getting ready for summertime, right? Shred season.
Body.
I currently perform 3 15-minute sessions of HIIT a week. Great. Would you recommend adding steady state throughout the week? And if so, how long of a session? I'll tell you what, buddy. If you're going to add steady state, it's basically, the research looks like this, okay? I remember when I was in grad school, I started studying endurance and cardio. And I know this is a shocker. Yeah, this is a shocker. This is a shocker to everyone here. But the reason why is I reasoned to myself that if I can understand the adaptations that happen in endurance training, I can understand how to avoid them. Because I think that's what's...
I was reading questions.
I was saying, because if I can understand the adaptations that happen with endurance training, I can understand how to avoid them. So I studied them. I studied them intently. And basically what happens is that the sweet spot that causes the most muscle loss is like... it's like that 65% of VO2 max, heart rate max, middle ground, right? That's where you get the most loss. But I also saw when you walk, like you're outside for a walk, you're not going to cause any adaptation, so you can't cause any counter adaptation. So if you, basically I would say is like get a step counter and just like go out for walks every day that are, as long as you can, like say you're out with your girlfriend or out with your friend, go for a walk, or you're walking the dog. Just, have fun, but don't stress yourself. You can do that every day as much as you want.
Easy.
Yeah, 30-minute walk in the morning. Heck, an hour walk in the morning. As long as you're not, like, causing distress, you're not going to adapt.
So flex loose loves.
Exactly. Will you be doing any research on nootropics, and what are your recommendations? Okay, yeah, definitely going to be doing research on nootropics. In fact, we'll do a whole stuff. That's Andy's thing.
Some stuff has been up.
Yeah.
We did something on Alpha GPC.
Alpha GPC, I would definitely take Alpha GPC. There's some good stuff on T-Cream and other stuff. So, okay, Nate says, what's up, Doc? Is intermittent fasting, say a 16-hour fast and 8-hour eating window, beneficial for muscle gain? They say that growth hormone is released from being in a fasted state. All right, so Nate, just real quick, pal. I'm not going to say 8 hours is beneficial for muscle, but you can gain muscle in an 8-hour window, right? The 16-hour fast will raise growth hormone, but I think that's going to be more beneficial for your skin and your connective tissue, not as much so for like muscle hypertrophy. It's more better for like connective tissue and skin and all that stuff, right? It'll keep you looking beautiful. AirDoc212. What's up, AirDoc212? Best snacks to eat throughout the day to help you gain weight. I mean, yeah, I know. I'll tell you what. I like stuff like peanuts and macadamia nuts, peanut butter. I would say stuff like that. It's nut-based stuff.
Higher fat content.
Yeah, higher
if you
fat
can't eat
content.
a lot and you're not a very voluminous person, just get them fats.
Exactly right. The other thing, dude, is make sure you have a lot of variety. It'll make you want to eat more. Matt's Hulse Ondal says, periodizing volume. How often should you switch up? How long does it take for the body to adapt to the volume? Tell you what, Matt. If you're more recreationally trained, then basically you can change it up like every 4 weeks. If you're highly trained like Paul Hauser here, the guy's got to be close to squatting 3 times his body weight. So if you can do that, then in which case you're probably going to need to switch it up every week at least, and probably even micro switching it up every workout. So it's called daily undulated periodization. And yeah, it's on Muscle PhD. Yeah, go to the Muscle PhD website and check out our article on periodization. And it'll talk about that. But if you're highly trained, and I suspect you are, Matt, you want to change it up every week. Born Creator 420 says, any tips on broader shoulders? Good question, buddy. Basically, that's your side delts, right? So remember, the side delts are responsible for what's called abducting, which is moving the arm outward, okay? So obviously, anything that's going to be side lateral movement. When you're doing presses, close grip presses are going to be better for the front delts. Wider grip presses, like taking a wider arch, causes more abduction. So wider grip presses are going to be better for the side delts in general. When you do upright rows, wider grip upright rows is going to be more adduction. So again, side laterals, also wider grip pressing movements and wider grip pulling movements are going to be really good for the side delts. Does berberine negatively affect strength? Natalie, if you take berberine, one thing it could do is it could slightly lower blood glucose levels. So basically what that means that, like, if you take it right before you work out, that could potentially lower your strength acutely. So just don't take it around your workout, and then it won't. Pitbull Fitness's greatest leg exercise depends. If you're trying to hit your quads, probably squats. If you're trying to hit your glutes, probably like glute bridges or hip thrusts, or deadlifts or something like that. So it all depends, buddy, on what your goal is. Winston Posvar says HMB versus leucine, is one better? Leucine's better for protein synthesis, meaning like adding amino acids to the muscle. HMB is better for lowering protein breakdown and repairing muscle damage. So they're both beneficial. I'd use them both. Why is insulin anabolic? Because it is. No, but all kidding aside though, insulin's basically works in a similar way to like IGF-1. So it actually binds to the same receptors as insulin like growth factor 1. That's what growth hormone increases, is IGF-1. So a lot of people, who's heard of IGF-1? Right? Just like, or what should I have you do? Like do a fist pump or something. Or like, yeah, fist pump if you've heard of IGF-1. So IGF-1 basically insulin binds the IGF-1 receptor, and that does increase protein synthesis. Insulin also in general will like increase blood flow of the muscle, and I think that's one of the ways it works. It increases blood flow and nutrient delivery to the muscle in general. And it actually causes some vasodilation. That's why if you like take a little bit of carbs, you get a pump. That's one thing like Annie and I notice. We don't eat tons of carbs, so if we eat carbs, we get a little bit veiny, right? So that's the answer. Robin Hood. Does HMB require a loading phase? Trey, I suspect yes, it does. What is the actual definition of what is the actual definition of high intensity training, and describe an example of weights and cardio machines? I'm going to answer the question above after that. What's the actual definition of high intensity training? Describe an example of weights and cardio machines. Basically, high intensity training has to be based on a percentage of a maximal output. So if I do, for example, like if I can bench press 100 pounds, anything past 80 is 80% of my 1RM, so that's going to be high intensity. Hey, Dr. Wilson, what are your thoughts about the HMB study and Dr. Phillips, Dr. Norton, etc., who released a paper criticizing your results? Well, I responded to Phillips and Norton, and I said, read my original clarification in Journal of Strength Conditioning and Research, because their questions added absolutely nothing to my original clarification. In it, I clearly demonstrated that HMB, from a previous study by Dr. Kramer, showed the exact same results that I showed. So that's my response, and no one's rebutted it yet. Okay, so mic drop. I saw a study you posted that said if you consume 500 more calories from protein, you will lose more fat in a caloric deficit. Is that true? So there is evidence that basically if you do if you consume 500 more calories, so basically macronutrient ratios are important, okay? So Dr. Lehman, who my brother did his PhD under, Dr. Gabriel Wilson, basically did his PhD under at U of I, found that a higher percentage of protein in your diet can spare muscle mass when you're dieting. That's going to keep your metabolism elevated. So a higher percentage of what you lose will be fat and not muscle. So that's at Apostolos Michael. Good question. Who's your favorite golden age bodybuilder? It's a really good question. It depends on what you define as golden age, but I'm going to have to say the Myth, Sergio Oliva, because he had that beautiful overhand, pose, the victory pose, and then he did the straight arm pose, and I would stare at that and go, God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. It literally motivated me to want to study the science of bodybuilding, So, I mean, you got to go with Sergio Oliva. Robin Hood, does fasting kill your gains? No, it doesn't. But if you're here's the thing: if you're thinking about intermittent fasting, if you're only eating for a 4-hour window, then yeah, that will kill your gains. But if you're eating for 8 to 10 hour window, no, it won't kill your gains. Winster says HMB versus Lucid is one better for the other for muscle growth to retention. They both have their roles. I wouldn't pit them against each other.
I'm assuming just the relation between cinnamon and insulin.
From a previous post, what's the relationship between cinnamon and insulin? Well, basically, cinnamon it slows the breakdown of carbohydrates in your small intestine. So basically, it's going to cause a lower glycemic response, and that's important for insulin sensitivity. There's also evidence that it may improve insulin signaling as well. Okay. Ray.
We gotta get Ray.
Oh, we got Ray's the guys. Ray Radwan is the man. You gotta
follow him.
Ray. You gotta follow Ray. Freaking the guy's phenomenal. I think he's gonna be in Generation Iron too. So, actually,
he was here for it.
He should be Ray. You need to be in Generation Iron. I think Ray was the most jacked person in Generation Iron. They should have had a whole feature just on Ray in Generation Iron. So, okay, that's my rant on Ray. So, fist bump Ray. Does Advil ibuprofen hinder muscle recovery by being a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory? Okay, Ray, it depends. If you are elderly and have chronically low-grade inflammation, it could help with muscle growth. You're not elderly, so it's not going to help you. Basically, when you're young, ibuprofen and Advil taken around your workout will actually inhibit muscle hypertrophy. But when you're older, say that you do have a lot of inflammation, you're in your fall and muscle PhD and you're in your 60s or 70s, there's some evidence from Scott Trappy that demonstrates that it could be beneficial at low doses. So there you go. Will HIIT minimize the interference effect endurance training has on resistance training? Yes, sir. We published a paper 2 years ago, whatever, showing that it helps build muscle. So it's certainly not going to interfere with it. She578. What do you think about reverse dieting if you cannot lose weight? She578. I don't know your whole training program, but I think the concept of slow reverse dieting doesn't work. So I think that you should try and get up to your maintenance calories as soon as possible. That would be my response. So yeah, I do think you should go get your calories back up. But slower reverse dieting, I wouldn't recommend. How do you know if you are truly overtraining? We've done research on a scale called the Perceived Recovery Status Scale, and the Perceived Recovery Status Scale from 0 to 10, and we published on it and basically found that if you fall below, if you're consistently a 5 or a 6 for weeks on end, you're probably overtrained. Most people are overreached. So if you took a few days off, 3 days off, or just backed off your training for a week, you're probably not overtrained, you're just overreached. So that's my response. Longer or shorter rest periods when doing max out hit? Both. That would be my response. Periodize rest periods on hit, just like you periodize rest periods on strength training. Leonardo Gasson says, how many reps for explosive strength for American football periodization? So explosive strength is going to be 1 to 5 repetitions. Good question. Thomas Christopher Lewis, that's a cool name, man. I wish like Christopher, that's like, isn't that a neat name? Christopher, yeah. Longer or shorter rest periods when doing max out hit? If it's max out, did I already answer that question?
I think you did.
I'd say if it's max out, like you're gonna die, probably longer. But with hit in general, I periodize it. What do you think is a good volume / sets per week for calves? Hashtag team no calves.
All of them.
Okay, dude, I'm serious. I would train your calves every day. I'll be honest with you. I train your calves every single day. I would periodize your volume. Do 20 sets one day, do 12 sets the next day, do 4 sets the next day, and start over. So what do you want me to do? Three more questions?
Yeah, good one.
Well, let's do this one. Just a good one.
There's so many questions.
Yeah, there's a lot.
A lot of questions going on here.
Okay, women taking creatine.
Can you still build decent amount of muscle after 50? Mark, yes. You're young. Like 50 is young. So you absolutely can gain muscle after 50. My dad, Floyd Wilson, he's in his 50s, and he's still building muscle, right? So, absolutely 100% right. We got Dad, you got a prime leg press coming on your way, actually. My dad, so we sent my dad a prime leg press. Come on your way, my man. This thing is sick. Like, if you guys don't have prime, it's phenomenal. What's your advice on women taking creatine? That's a really good question, Nicole. Here's the thing. I mean, a lot of times with creatine, you will gain a little bit of weight, but it's going to be muscle, like right away. Okay? So basically, it's going to be muscle, but the thing is, women get worried because, oh my God, I gained a bunch of weight. No, I'll never take creatine again. So what my advice is that you just take small doses, and let it load over a month period of time. So 3 to 5 grams a day as opposed to the loading period. We want, us, if we step on this, Paul will send me snaps about his weight, and every day it's more than mine. So, so I'm like, God. So, but he's like, well, obviously, I'm like, good, dude, you're getting huge. You don't want to say that to a girl for the most part. So basically, yeah, take 5 grams or something over 30 days would be cool. Sandro Mostarnines.
Last question.
Says, hey, Doc, did you see a new study from Brad about drop sets? So, yeah, so Brad basically found that doing drop sets can help you gain muscle mass. So I definitely think it can. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what, in fact, the first time I read about drop sets was I started incorporating them. I can remember. I think I was 17, and I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's encyclopedia, and he had his Weider principles, and they talked about drop sets increase muscle growth. So I think it's definitely a tried and true method. In fact, no, Bill Pearl did, I think, a book in the 50s, and he talked about drop sets in there. So, I mean, we're talking about this is definitely tried and true for probably over 100 years. People have been using drop sets to gain muscle. So if Brad found that, yeah, I definitely would think the results are on point. Can you still build muscle at 65? Oh, wait, yes, I'm doing it. Roger, fist pump, brother. Absolutely, my man. 100%. Yes. In fact, there's lots of studies backing that up, and you're showing that. Okay, guys, so that's going to be the end of this. If you're on Facebook, hit share. If you're on Instagram, I love you guys too. You're freaking phenomenal. The whole point of this, guys, listen, here's my thing, okay? Change the freaking game. What industry are you in? Like, what industry are you in right now, okay? What's everyone else doing? Don't just keep doing the same old things. Like, do something different. That's why our lab is always in the spotlight. That's why everyone's always talking about our lab, whether they're talking trash or they're talking, or they're loving us, because we're actually doing something different. We're not doing the same trash every time. Like, hey guys, like, training to failure is good for muscle. Okay, I know that. You got to do something different. Do something different. Change the game. Step out there. Change it. Be different. Be on the edge. You guys who are following or are part of this Muscle PhD community, by definition, are doing that every freaking day. I'll see you next week. Love you guys. Bye.